Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and it's all about the championship games. That's right, this weekend is the AFC and NFC championship games, and Scott Bogman and I are going to take you through all of the bets. We're going to take you through some of the prop bets as well. And I got to tell you, Bogman, I know most of the time we'd come in here and say we were 50% last week, and we would be very ashamed of ourselves. But I saw a lot of goose egg people out there. I saw a lot of people who got one thing right. We at least got the upset there with Cincinnati correct. That is good. We did talk about San Francisco maybe having that chance, and it's worth, sprinkling a little chips on there. But my goodness, thank goodness for Casey and Cincinnati coming through, because it was a wild weekend last weekend.
Yeah, 2-2 is perfectly fine in a 4-game set. So, we'll keep our money. That's enough. So, but yeah, man, it was a wacky divisional round. Of course, a lot of people calling it the best weekend of playoff football ever. Hard to disagree with that. I think the hyperbole of the Chiefs versus Bills being the best game ever, a little bit much, because it was the divisional round. There's been some great Super Bowls, you know what I mean? But these games were amazing, and there's a whole new meaning to 13 seconds now. So,
thankfully for Cowboys
we'll take
fans.
That.
Yeah, thankfully for Cowboys fans. But I'll say this too. I mean, I don't know if it was the best game ever, but I think it's the best fourth quarter ever. That might be
for
true.
sure.
I mean, it's
best
hard not to
post
say that.
2-minute warning ever in the history of football. That is for sure.
Certainly insane, but obviously we've got to go back to the grindstone and put our nose in it, I guess. And we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Los Angeles Rams. A lot to digest in these games. First, before we even get into it, I want to remind everybody, head over to bettingpros.com right now, and that way you can see all the picks, all the different houses, and all the different options you have here. Everything from BetMGM, FanDuel, DK, they're all on here on bettingpros.com, where you can see the consensus line, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And the consensus line, when we look at this first game, Bogman, is the Cincinnati Bengals 7-point underdogs going into Kansas City. Now, a couple weeks ago, Cincinnati Bengals went in to Kansas City and pulled out a victory.
That was in Cincy.
In Cincinnati, pardon me. In Cincinnati pulled off the victory. So I kind of touched on this with you last week, which was the idea of, I feel like had these teams not matched up this year, then there could be that opportunity where they would overlook Cincinnati. I don't think they're going to overlook Cincinnati. If you're looking for the over-under in this game, there's 54.5. And if you watch some of the defense at the end of that game with Kansas City, maybe, just maybe, this isn't over. But Boggs, let's start here with this spread and the 7. What are your thoughts on the 7?
I mean, I think the 7 is appropriate for the way that both these teams are playing. My favorite bet here is the over. We'll get into that in a second, but I think this is about right. And I think the thing here is experience. It's 4 years in a row in the AFC Championship for the Kansas City Chiefs. It is the first AFC Championship since 1988 for the Cincinnati Bengals. So, I think it's all about experience here. I thought maybe this line would be closer to 5.5, just because Cincinnati had won against Kansas City earlier in that game in particular. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had fewer yards than Jamar Chase did. Jamar Chase had more receiving yards than Mahomes had passing yards. So, I think there is not a way in hell that's going to happen again. I mean, not with the way that Pat Mahomes is playing ever since that second quarter of the Steelers game. He is, unstoppable right now. Mm-hmm. So I think 7 is about fair.
Now, if you're looking at the consensus line, it's 7. But if you go to BetMGM, it's 7.5. And obviously with BetMGM too, BetMGM users can get $10 and bet any $10 on any event, and then win $150 in free bets regardless of the outcome. So that's a great spot there for those of you who live in the states where that's available, which is New York, New Jersey, Colorado, Indiana, West Virginia, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Virginia, Iowa, DC, Arizona, and a few others as well. But here's a question for you, Boggs. Does the hook matter to you? The 7.5? Is that something you'd be looking for?
Not really. It does matter, of course, but for me, I'm going to be taking Kansas City just because of the way that Patrick Mahomes is playing right now. He looks fairly unstoppable. Like I said, I don't know what broke towards the second quarter of that Steelers game and wild card weekend, but it broke and the dam is open, and Patrick Mahomes is playing unbelievable right now. Even in that, that first drive we saw Buffalo go down, go for it on fourth and get it. Go for the fourth and goal and score a touchdown. But they had everything planned perfectly against Mahomes on that first drive, and he just ran it. He was like, all right, I'll go get it with my legs. And he did. So it's just whatever he does is turning to gold right now, and it's hard to pick against Mahomes when that's happening for him.
Now, if the hook does matter to you, those of you listening, and you are a new BetMGM user, again, that's $10. You can wager and use the promo code JUICE150. Again, that's JUICE150. And once again, $10 on any event, and you'll win $150 in free bets. That's a pretty good return on your investment, I would say. What about the over-under here in this one? The consensus line over on BettingPros right now is 54.5. A lot of money right now coming in on the over side. Is that where you lean as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it has to be the over here. We saw both these teams put up points last week. I mean, Joe Burrow put up some points despite being sacked 9 times. That stuff's not going to happen against against Kansas City. They're going to improve their line play. And also Jeffrey Simmons is not on this line. Chris Jones is, and he's been playing well. Frank Clark has been playing great as well, too. But they're not going to get to him 9 times again. So I think, after what we saw in specifically Chase, just remember when Chartavis Ward hit the gritty in the end zone after blocking 1 pass from Chase, and then Chase caught 2 more touchdowns and hit it both times. I mean, come on, man. I think this game is an over. Now, something pushing off of that is Tyrann Mathieu did practice in full today. So that is going to help out, that second safety spot in Kansas City. They switch back and forth between, because Daniel Sorensen can't cover, but he can tackle, and Juan Thornhill can cover, but he can't tackle. So they've been going back and forth. So when Mathieu went out early in the game last week, that's why we saw, Mike Hughes get completely cooked, but there was no help behind him because Mathieu had been out. So that's going to help towards that. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think Kansas City can get most of this by themselves with the way they're playing. And if the Bengals are going to keep pace, it's going to go way over that, just like we saw KC and Buffalo.
Yeah, so far, according to bettingpros.com, 77% in our matchups right now are on the over. And right now, this might surprise you, 59% of the wagers coming in on the Cincinnati side on the +7. So that's pretty interesting there.
I think you see the Bengals win 2 road games, and that's a big line. Yeah, and they beat Kansas City before this year. So, I understand it.
I get it too. It just feels like they're going to be outclassed a little bit to me. Now, if anybody can go in there and, write that check, it's Joe Burrow. It feels like he's got that kind of swagger and got that kind of momentum. He's big game Joe Burrow, baby.
We're so close to a Cincinnati-San Francisco Super Bowl rematch, too. I mean, come on.
Somebody dust Boomer Esiason off and bring him over there. The number 2 on the money line is Cincinnati +275 if you're looking to just bet Cincinnati to win outright. But again, a little dicey scenario there.
I think I'd rather take that than take them plus the points. I think I'd rather take them straight up.
I agree. If I'm gonna go on the Cincinnati side, I'd rather leave the points aside and just go bet them outright. And I'm with you 100%. And we bet them outright last week on this very show, and we were correct. We bet them outright. We thought the Chiefs outright. Look, it was a crazy, wacky weekend. There's no doubt about that. When 3 road teams win on the last play of the game on a field goal kick, I mean, it's pretty wild. You don't always get that, that's for sure. But look, it is what it is.
Did you see the stat they flashed up in the middle of that too? It was like the smallest win margin in a divisional weekend total for all 4 games was 18 points. It was 9 going into the late game, and it ended up at 15 because they scored the touchdown in overtime. So closest division weekend ever, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was certainly fun, unless, of course, you're Aaron Rodgers, in which case it was less fun for you. But I'm sure there's someone else to blame besides him. Let's move on to the next game here. The San Francisco 49ers are 3.5-point underdogs traveling to Los Angeles. Now, here you go. The Rams have lost 6 straight times to the 49ers. And, we talk oftentimes about, the history of things doesn't matter too much. But this is recent history.
Right.
And right now, the money is dead even basically on both of these teams on bettingpros.com if you look at the consensus. So 3.5 is the number, Boggs. When you're looking at this line, do you think this is finally the time where the Rams buck the trend, turn things around, and finally say enough is enough? I'm not going to get beat by Jimmy Garoppolo again. Or do you think San Francisco's just in their head and they just own them?
I don't know if they're in their head, but I am taking the Niners here. And I can't believe that the Rams are in this spot. The way they looked the last month of the regular season, coming into the playoffs to then just crush the Cardinals, which was, great for them to see. Both those teams backed in. It's good to see one pick up and go. And then you go, all right, now they're going on the road against Tampa Bay. I don't know about that. And they let Tampa Bay come all the way back and then have to have those huge heroics from Matthew Stafford. I think that definitely helped them. But I'm taking the Niners here. This is basically going to be
the
Niners home
didn't
game.
Put up an offensive touchdown in that game last week.
Yeah, but Green Bay didn't either, and I think a lot of that had to do with the
Green
weather.
Bay put up one. Green Bay put up one offensive touchdown. One.
You're right.
First drive of the game.
I thought you said didn't score more than 10 points. So
no, they didn't put up an offensive touchdown, and that's the thing. And Jimmy Garoppolo, when they got close, what did Jimmy Garoppolo do? He became Jimmy Garoppolo who throws picks. And
they have survived the Jimmy Garoppolo disaster 2 weeks in a row, but he doesn't have it every single week. It's the playoffs. He might have it again this week, and no one would be shocked, me least of all. I can't wait for Jimmy to be the Steelers quarterback next year. Because they're definitely going to go to Trey Lance. They just gave up 3 first-round picks for him. Unless they win the Super Bowl, I think Jimmy G's getting traded out of San Francisco.
Let me tell you, man, even if they win the Super Bowl, I think it would be nuts to bring Garoppolo back. I really do.
Yeah, and this is a franchise, that we've seen. They traded Joe Montana, right? So they're not afraid to make a change, even if they have success. So
Jimmy Garoppolo's not even Hannah Montana.
Right. I think he's gone. But what he's doing right now is giving himself another shot in the NFL. That's for sure.
Yes,
and even making the big mistakes, it hasn't been enough to kill them and knock them out. I think the weather had a huge factor last week, for both sides. And everyone wants to give Green Bay this great home field advantage. It doesn't really matter who you are or how long you've been used to it when it's 0 degrees. It's just bitter, angry, cold. And everyone feels miserable. I think that's just the way it is.
The Packers are supposed to
but they lost to the Giants, dude. And I know the Giants are a cold weather team too, but come on, you have this advantage. So anyway, I think that I just don't think you're going to have the same issues. Tom Brady and the Bucs lost because Joe Wells was giving up so much pressure. Much pressure. I mean, he gave up 6 pressures and a couple sacks. Brady couldn't keep himself upright in that game. I know Trent Williams got hurt, and he is a big question mark for this game for the Niners, but he thinks he's going to be good to go. And Kyle Shanahan said, look, if Trent says he's good to go, he's good to go, right? I'm not going to question him, So I think he's going to end up playing. They've dominated this team. You saw the Rams have to go through the whole bit of trying not to sell tickets to this certain zip codes.
I did,
because the Niners are going to migrate.
But that's always been the case, and this is something where
this is just LA.
It's just LA. It's always been just LA.
It happens in Arizona too, man. I'm from Arizona with the Cardinals. There's so many transplants on the West Coast. They grow up rooting for other teams, and then they want to go see their team play. That's just the way it is.
But when we talk about that lack of home field advantage, it's something that I brought up time and time again on this show during the year. In fact, when Dan and I were doing the look ahead show a couple weeks ago, the first thing I said was the 49ers own the Rams. There's no home field advantage. I would take the 49ers again just to win outright. That was my upset of the week, and the Rams were favored in that one too. And guess what? They lost again. I just feel like at a certain amount of time, I think that last week there's such a confidence build for Matthew Stafford and the Rams coming off of the way that they won that football game. And even though you brought up a lot of reasons why they won the football game that way, they did dominate that football game in the first half. They made errors that let the Tampa Bay Bucs get back in. You can't give Tom Brady second chances and third chances, because if you do, you're going to get burned eventually, and they did. But I feel like the fact that they came back and won that game is a different mindset for the Rams. I really do. I think the Rams make a statement. I think the Rams win this football game. The 3.5 is the question. So do you like the 49ers on the 3.5, or do you like the 49ers just to win outright, the plus 160 on the money line?
I'm taking the Niners on the money line. There's some type of voodoo magic going on with this team where Jimmy G can throw a pick on the road in Dallas and still win, not score a touchdown in Green Bay in the cold, in the playoffs, and the pick, and still win. There's some type of weird voodoo magic going on here.
It's called defense.
With the
that's what it's called, defense and Deebo Samuel, which brings me to this point. Deebo Samuel got the crap kicked out of him that game. I mean, he was coming off and on. Any concerned about his potential health coming into this game, regardless of practice status, because
I
he
mean,
did get knocked around quite a bit in that one.
he was on his feet at the end of the game. That's all I care about,
Okay.
So I think they'll give him all the good goofballs, and he'll go out there and be fine. So
God
I'm
knows I took all the goofballs before this show today.
out
I
of way.
make sure.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to the over-under here. In your opinion, the 45.5. That is the consensus number over on bettingpros.com. What are your thoughts there on the 45.5?
It's what you just said, Joe. Defense. Both
Mm-hmm.
these teams have been playing solid defense. Only a half for LA last week for whatever reason, but the Niners have been playing solid defense throughout the season, and I don't see why that is not going to continue. Also, there are concerns with the Niners, like you just mentioned. Debo comes in a little nicked up. Eli Mitchell has never had this many carries in his career ever because he was in a 3-back system at Louisiana. And now he comes in his rookie year and is getting 27 carries in some of these games. So he's not 100%. We know Trent Williams isn't 100%. We saw what the Rams did against the Bucs last week too. So I'm going to take the under here. And I just think this is going to be a nasty, low-scoring game in a weird indoor environment. You don't think of this nasty, gross defenses that clog everything up in an indoor stadium, but that's what we've been getting from both of these teams recently. So I'm going to stick with it and go with the under.
Yeah. I think I agree with you there. I agree with you on the under for this one too. I think we disagree on the outcome, but if you want to take the Niners into 3.5, I feel better than that than the Niners winning outright. I just think it's the Rams' time to exercise the demons. It feels like that for Matthew Stafford. I think that's where they're at with the mojo. So we'll come back next week and we'll figure out who was right and wrong about that one. So unlike last week, we were agreed on all 4 things, which should have been the sign of the apocalypse, by the way, for everybody. Like that was the sign of the apocalypse. Last week, we did agree on everything. We were right on 2 things, wrong on 2 things. This week, we agree on 1 thing, Kansas City Chiefs advancing, but we're going to differ on who advances on this next one. So if you want to bet the Super Bowl, if you want to be with Bogman, then obviously you're betting the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And you want to be with Joey B, you bet the Rams and Chiefs. And I don't think anybody's really betting the
Get
Bengals
ready for Niners Bengals.
So, Niners Bengals, everybody. Here we go. Where's Jonathan? Yeah, not Jonathan Taylor, but John Taylor. You have to go back to those days. So it's a whole different era right there. And that's the famous 2-minute drive where Joe Montana said, "Hey, look, John Candy's in the front."
Right.
I love that one. I love that story. That's the best. Favorite John Candy movie, Bogman? Do you have one?
Ooh, Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck? Is it
Yeah,
Uncle Buck? Is it
Uncle
Planes,
Buck.
Trains, and Automobiles? That's
It's
a good
Uncle
one too.
Buck. I mean, there's so many good ones. People
Outdoors is a quality one.
Great
too.
Outdoors is so good. Have you seen White or Whites? I mean, the just flipping the pancake with the gigantic snow shovel and then going in and beating up that girl's ex-boyfriend. I mean, just Uncle Buck is the best. Yeah.
There you go. So a little betting, a little John Candy. All right, let's move to the individuals here. And if you go to bettingpros.com, you check out our prop bet cheat sheet, which is fantastic because it gives you basically where the lines are for some of these prop bets and the consensus, and then the Fantasy Pros projections on that side of the BP projection side of what you got here. So Cam Akers is the first one that comes up for rushing yards. 55.5 is the over-under. The projection is 73. It's a big difference there. What do you think about Cam Akers? Despite the fumbles last week, do you think they continue to have confidence in him run the football?
I mean, Sony Michel hasn't fumbled in a million years. So, he coughs it up twice, almost cost him the game. I don't know. I don't know what his role is going to be this week. I don't know what their confidence level in him is again. And if he, if he coughs it up one more time, he is going straight to the bench. So I have no confidence in his yards. Also, I would stray away from this bet.
All right, Jimmy Garoppolo, passing yards 225.5 is the number here.
I'll take the over on 22.
225.5, and the projection is 242. So that's a pretty big difference. That's a 16-point difference. You think Jimmy G's got a 225 in him?
No. Once again, I'm going to take the under. If I'm taking the Niners, I think they win. And I think you win by not letting Jimmy G throw the ball that much. So I think you win with the run game. So I'm not going to take that bet either. Under, if I'm betting.
I agree on the under with that one, and the under on Akers. We're 2 for 2 on that. I think the 242 is a big number there in terms of the projectability. Byron Pringle, another guy who's gotten himself involved lately. 35.5 on the receiving number for him. The projections have him at 46.34. It's a 10-point plus difference. Your thoughts on Byron Pringle over under 35.5 from him?
I think that number's fine. I think gun to my head, I would bet the over, but I'm not going to bet that number just because they got Mecole Hardman so involved last week and designed a bunch of plays for him, and they worked. He almost scored twice. He almost scored the game winner in overtime after already scoring earlier in the game. So I think they like what Hardman has been doing recently and going to get him more involved. But that's just with the way Mahomes has been playing. Pringle's on the field, he could get that in 2 catches. So if gun in my head, I bet in the over, but I'm probably going to stray away from that number too.
All right, now these numbers that we're looking at are points bet. I'm going to throw 2 more points bet numbers at you right now. Joe Mixon 55.5 on the rushing side. The projections on BP have him at 66.11.
Way over that.
I agree. I think that's an easy one. That's a gimme on that one. Receiving yards on points bet for George Kittle, 50.5. The projections have him at 56. Now, Kittle has really kind of, I don't want to say fallen off because that's not fair, but at the same point, it has been a while since we've seen consistency out of George Kittle putting up big receiving totals. What do you think about this particular week?
I agree with that. Kittle hasn't been at his absolute best right now, but what I'll say for this is I'm going to take the over because that's how you attack the Rams. You attack them over the middle, because Travin Howard playing linebacker with these beat up safeties that they have too. I think Kittle can, once again, this is something where, Kittle breaks 1 tackle and he's getting 30. So, how many more catches does he need? 2 or 3? I would go with the over on that.
All right, let's move over to another one. Jamar Chase's number over on FanDuel for receiving yards, 85.5. Projections have him at 93. So does Jamar Chase do it to him again, Boggs?
You sure projections don't have him at 215, Joe? So, you got to take the over on Chase. Look, you think every week, well, they're going to double and bracket Chase, so they're going to have to go to Higgins, and it keeps not happening. So I don't know, man. They're going to find a way to get the ball in Chase's hand. He's great with the yak. I'm going to go over that number.
Matthew Stafford at BetMGM, 282 is the passing yard number, 276 is the projection, so a little on the minus side there. Do you think Stafford goes over or under the 282.5, excuse me?
Oh, that's a great number. I'm going to stray away from this number, but if I had to pick something, I'd pick the over. I got the Niners winning this game, so I think the Rams are going to have to play catch up at some point, and we see a decent amount of yards, and we know after seeing that late drive, he can get 70 of that on 2 passes to Cooper Kupp. So I will go with the over on Matt Stafford.
All right. Speaking of Cooper Kupp here, are you interested in reception numbers or are you interested more in the total?
More yards for me.
Okay. All right. Very good. Because, I think when you're looking at him at this point, it's amazing because the ball's going to him. And on BetMGM right now, 102 is the receiving yards. That feels like an over to me.
Yeah. Yes, it's got the weakness of the Niners defense is the secondary, but this is why DeMeco Ryans been getting so many head coaching interviews, right? Because he has these guys playing incredibly right now. So, I think I'm going to go with the over on that though. It's just in a big time spot, you gotta bank on Cooper Kupp showing up.
All right. Last one here, Patrick Mahomes. And this one right here, the number. Well, I don't know. Do you want to hear the number first or no?
Yeah, well, I'll hear it, but I'm going to take the over.
289.5.
Over.
Okay.
Over. Easy, over 300. Look, the run was working. I don't know if you remember, but there was a point in the game. I don't know how many touches CH ended up with, but they said, well, that's Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's 4th carry. He has 49 yards. So it's like, what? Give him the ball a little more then.
I know.
If it's 4 for 49.
He looked good in that game, I thought.
He looked great, but McKinnon looked better. And it's Mahomes' show, man. They're not taking the ball out of his hands. So I'm taking the over whatever they give for Mahomes there. He's going to crush it.
Shout out to JP, who's joining us live here on BettingPros on the YouTube side, which he chimed in on the John Candy conversation, Spaceballs. It's his favorite
Great
John
pick.
Candy movie.
It's a
Also,
great pick.
a very Summer Rental, also a classic.
I don't think I've ever seen Summer Rental.
Oh, Summer Rental, Cool Runnings. The list goes on and on. John Candy.
I think you're the only human being that's seen more movies than I have, Joe.
Probably.
Right.
But I also worked in a video store in college, so that also has something to do with that.
Were you not even supposed to be there that day?
I was never supposed to be there, but
$15, little man.
Oh, goodness gracious. And again, I encourage everybody out there to subscribe to our YouTube channel over at Betting Pros, because we'll be bringing you content through the Super Bowl as well. And not to mention, when baseball season kicks around, we'll be there. We'll be there probably doing shows about the NFL draft before you know it. And a lot of exciting things to be wagering on. It's a very exciting time to be part of it. And once again, if you're new and you're trying to just jump in there, we just gave you that cheat sheet over at Betting Pros we have right there, the prop bets. That is a great thing, so you can use that. Go to BetMGM, spend $10, use the promo code JUICE150, and just like that, you get $150 in free bets, and then keep building and building and building off that. So there's lots of opportunities for you, but we encourage everybody to go to bettingpros.com and check out all the tools there, because I'm telling you, that prop bet cheat sheet is fantastic. I've been using it a lot more frequently myself in the last few weeks. Now that fantasy's been dwindled down, you get to look at that and really go ahead and make your wagers. Any final thoughts here, Scott Bogman, before we turn the page and step away from the championship games and let the football play out?
No, I mean, just that I will be surprised if Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the magic, and but the NFC Championship to me can go either way. And I won't look. The Bengals are a good team, and I know I don't like them, but I'm not trying to take anything away from them. They're fantastic, but whatever Mahomes is on, we should all be on. And maybe it goes away after this game, because you get that 2-week layoff before the Super Bowl. But he has been outstanding, so I can't bet against him.
I think he's flipped the switch. And it's funny, if you look back in the last 20 years, the teams that lose the Super Bowl typically don't do very well. The only quarterbacks that really got back after losing and still had good seasons after that, there were two of them. One was named Russell Wilson, and the other was some guy named Tom Brady. So Patrick Mahomes might be the third person. But if you look back, it is a tough road back to the Super Bowl after a tough loss, especially. So it just shows you how good Patrick Mahomes is. And I'm with you. I think they get outclassed there a little bit, but I'm going with the Rams, baby. Let's go. It's finally time for Matthew Stafford to get to his Super Bowl. I like the good narrative. So we'll see who's right and who's wrong, and hopefully everybody has fun with their wagering and all their futures on the Super Bowl going on as well. So a lot to get done there. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Scott Bogman, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.